Hello, today I'm going to talk mainly about the 10 things that I have learnt over the last year as a new YouTube creator, but also there's going to be a little bit of a live catch up before we start. Hello and welcome back to the Frugal Granny channel. My name's Ali and I'm Frugal Granny. I'm a 65-year-old semi-retiree trying to do the best on what I've got, having left my office job last June in 2025 and getting the state pension next year in the UK in July 2027. Well, hello, it's lovely to see you, especially my regular viewers. And thank you so much to all of you for all your well wishes for Bels, my black pug, after her vet procedures on Thursday. She's doing really, really well. Let's just stop for a minute. Can you hear anything? No background snoring. The procedure on her nasal cavity has really eased her breathing. Her nostrils are still a bit red and sore, and occasionally she does have a little bit of a snuffle attack. But listen, absolutely nothing, and I promise you she is sat right there on her blanket. So thank you very much for all of your well wishes. We're going to have some mainly quiet background videos going on now. Now, in that respect, I do just want to come clean and say that the video you will see on Monday has Bels snoring for England in the background, and you're going to say, well, how come after the procedure? Well, I'm going to put my hand up now and say I filmed that video before Thursday, before she had the procedure, because I really wasn't sure how things were going to go this weekend. I honestly didn't know if I was going to have time to film and put together a video. So what I did for that video is I took my discretionary spending for May and my stocking up allowance for May, which together comes to £65, and I went to do some stocking up shopping for my pantry. I put that on my credit card and I will be paying myself back for that as soon as I pay myself my monthly allowance at the beginning of May. But I needed those items to film the topping up shopping trip that I wanted to post for you. So yeah, I'm coming clean about that, and that's one of the things that I have learnt about YouTube is thinking ahead and scheduling, and sometimes having to do things a little bit back to front. But I've been caught out by Bella's breathing, so on Monday if you hear her snoring away, it's because I filmed Monday's video before last Thursday when she had her treatment. But the money I spent on those items will be coming out of my May living allowance. I've just had to do things a bit of a topsy-turvy way in order to make sure that I had something for you on Monday. So yeah, thank you, continuing viewers and subscribers. I've been overwhelmed by all the support for Bels over the last few days. We're having another restful day today, and then tomorrow she's going to have a post-op checkup with my vet at 11 o'clock. Yes, vets do work on Sundays. They're amazing people. Yes, and so if you're a new viewer, you're very welcome. I basically do what it said in my channel description. I'm vlogging my life, having left my career job 2 years early, having taken semi-retirement, and the challenges that I face, how I overcome them, just everyday life in general. Okay, so let's get into things I have learnt. Having been on YouTube for a year, it is actually 1 year to the day now that I put up my very first video. Some of you are used to that now, aren't you? Like it's up there in the corner. Hello, I'm Frugal Granny UK. It wasn't very long. I posted it with fear and trembling. I really did. I had no idea what I was doing. It was filmed on my phone. It was a one-take video. I may have cut a few things out using the rather clunky software on YouTube Studio, but basically that's how things were then. I sat with my phone. I think the only thing I bought myself was a very, very small tripod that would hold my phone, and I pressed record, I talked into it, and that's where it all started. And after that, it's been a very, very big learning curve, but I do feel now, after a year, that I've got myself into a sort of routine. I'm not saying there's nothing else that I need to learn. There's always something new to learn. And this week, my new thing, you would have seen it in my last Magazine Monday video, I filmed myself out and about on my mobile phone. I didn't want to take my iPad with me. And I managed to transfer video content from my phone to my iPad so that I could cobble it together into the clips that I'd filmed on my iPad. I don't think it's something I want to be doing very often. I don't have an iPhone, so my phone doesn't automatically share everything with my iPad, so that is a bit of a clunky procedure. And when I did my college reunion video, I'll link that up there for those of you who may be interested, I filmed the whole thing on my iPad, and that really was something, you know, spending the whole evening at a black tie event wandering around with an iPad, you know, shooting clips here and there. I did feel a little bit of an idiot, but hey, it was great, and I loved making that video. That was another big moment in my learning curve about how to put together a story, edit clips, get the angles right, everything. That was a fantastic experience, that one. But anyway, let's not ramble. I've written a few things down on my trusty laptop. Let me just get in there, and I've put 10 things down that I have learned about myself and in general in my first year on YouTube. Now, to be honest with you, I could probably make a whole series out of this. Each one of these topics in itself is a video, and I do know there are content creator gurus out there who have done just that, but I've no plans to do that. That would be a completely off-piste sidetrack for me. I'm just quite happy to summarize them quickly here in this video. So the first thing I've learnt coming onto YouTube is getting over the fear of seeing my own face. Now, I know that may sound very trivial to some of you, but over the years, I have not really enjoyed the way my face has changed. I had a friend, I'm not in contact with her anymore, and I was showing her a picture of what I looked like a few years back, and she said to me, "Oh, you were really beautiful once." And, you know, that sort of comment really stings, and you think, oh my goodness, I'm just a fading, jaded, invisible, middle-aged woman, and, you know, I'm not sure I really want to see my face on social media. My Instagram account, which I've had for donkey's years, I never showed my face once. I never showed anybody's faces except my chickens and my pugs. So uploading that video to YouTube was a really big moment for me. I have had to get over looking at my face and getting used to who I am and learning to love myself and accept myself, and that's been a really big thing for me over this year. It really has, and I'm now able to accept who I am in that respect. I'm not 40 anymore. I'm not 25 anymore. I'm now in my 60s, and this is my 60s look, and I'm fine with that because, you know, I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm living for myself now and for practicalities, and that's just the way it is. Okay. Okay, point 2. The second thing that I've had to really overcome is getting used to hearing my own voice. I do remember a very, very long time ago when I was training to be a teacher, and we're talking 1982 now. We had to be filmed teaching a lesson, and watching that being played back in front of the whole group was one of the most agonising experiences I have ever had. And I think ever since then, I've had a desperate fear of hearing recordings of my own voice. But Over the last year, and I think you'll probably notice this yourself if you go back to some of my earlier videos, I do feel that I've found my own voice. And that's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. I really noticed that I've increased in my self-confidence. I'm a lot more aware, I think, too, of some of the vocabulary I use. And another thing with speaking on camera is learning not to speak too quickly, is learning to leave pauses at key points so that you've got something to work with when you're coming to editing the footage afterwards. You've got points in the recording where you can clip things without losing words. I've also had to come to terms with some of the words I use very frequently, like actually, and I do go and ah a lot more than you'd realise. I spend a lot of time cutting out ums and ahs. Yeah, so hearing my voice, finding my own voice. I found my own voice on paper very quickly several decades ago, but finding your own voice on film is an entirely different thing, and it takes time and you have to be persistent. But after a while, it's like wearing a pair of new shoes that rub. Eventually they stop rubbing and you realise that you're walking quite comfortably. I think the third thing that I've learned, but in actual fact this is not totally learning from scratch, it's a transferable skill, is learning resilience in a new situation and realising that you're in something for the long haul, that things are not going to go exactly the way you want straight away, but you need to invest time and effort over a long period of time in order to get to where you're going. And I personally think that I have always been a very persistent person. I think I'm quite resilient. I wouldn't say I'm 100% resilient, but I'm quite resilient. If I was 100% resilient, I'd still be in my office job, and I'm not. But that makes me 100% honest with myself, not necessarily 100% resilience. So yeah, anyway, I'm not going to go off down that rabbit hole. I could talk for quite a long time on that, but I'm not going to. So that's another thing I have learned. It's no point just putting up one or two videos and hoping that the whole world is going to change for you. It won't. You have to persist, even when views are low, even when subscriber numbers, especially in the beginning, seem to go up and down. It can be very, very disheartening when you lose a few subscribers, when you've only got a few to start with, but as you get more and more, losing a few becomes unnoticeable. So it's learning to push through all those barriers, being resilient, turning up, and knowing that this is for the long haul. But as I say to my kids and to myself, you've got to do things, you've got to do life, any project, one step at a time. Just do the next thing. Don't think that you've got to put up, well, for me it would be about 150, 175 videos in a year. Don't think about that. Just think about what you've got to get done in the next week and do that. And then just do the next week. And then soon you'll realise you've done a whole month. And soon you'll realise you've done a whole 3 months, and that you're learning and changing on the job all the time just by showing up. That really brings me to the next thing that I've learned, the fourth one, and that is consistency. And the YouTube creator gurus do say this, that consistency is the key to growth. That was something that I had to learn pretty early on, was to find what worked for me in terms of the other things that were happening in my life, and in relation to what other people in my niche are putting on YouTube, what worked for me in terms of scheduling each week. I could see pretty quickly that posting 3 times a week was going to be necessary, but I didn't want to do that particularly on the same day as everybody else. I didn't want to be doing that on the same day as Ali, Sharon and Jane. I wanted to make sure that I was doing that on different days. Otherwise, I was a bit worried viewers would get overkill. And I also didn't want to schedule videos for days when I was really busy with other things, because that would put unnecessary time pressure onto myself, and that obviously knocks on to the people in your household and, you know, the things that are going on around you. So I quite quickly plumped on Mondays, Thursdays and Saturdays. But then after a while I realised that there was a consistent dip on Wednesdays, and so I decided after a while I would try and put in a bonus video every other week, and that's made all the difference actually. It does mean extra effort, but it has made all the difference. So the thing to do is learn to show up, is to make a plan, have a plan, analyse the situation, decide what you're going to do and what works for you. And that's what I have done for me. And the other thing I did very quickly, because as you've probably realised now over the months, I'm quite an organised person. So I have a tab on my spreadsheet called YouTube Schedule, where I've put a template of each month. I've blocked in the non-movable topics that I tend to cover, like payday allocation or monthly budget or whatever that is. Those are all blocked in. And then I try and fill in the squares around them depending on what I'm doing in a particular week or what might be coming up. And then I can also as well look back and see what I've done. So there is a degree of planning, scheduling and administration going on behind the scenes in YouTube. And I don't think a lot of creators probably realise that when they start, but you do need to have a plan. And I guess, although I've never really been a teacher in a secondary school, I quit. I quit before I started because I was assaulted in a classroom during a teaching practice, and that rather put me off. But learning to lesson plan over the course of a week, the course of a whole year or a semester, has been really helpful for this. And as well, I was a timetabling officer for 7 years, so scheduling is a transferable skill that I've been able to bring to YouTube. But if you're capable of filling in a calendar or a diary, you can schedule too. So let's look at the next thing. Learning new technical skills. Now that one has been unbelievable. I have had to learn so much, and at the beginning the pressure really was on. And right here and now I would like to thank my old department where I used to work for the iPad. I won this iPad a year before I retired from my old job for being best staff support in that particular academic year. And for 9 months, I will be honest with you, I didn't touch this iPad because I was scared of it. Never had an iPad before in my life. I didn't know how to log on to it even. And so I had to arrange a session at the nearest Apple store where I booked in. This poor patient technician sat with me and gave me one-to-one tuition on how to turn an iPad on, what all the icons were, how it all worked. And because nobody else turned up for that session, he changed it towards the end and showed me as well how iMovie worked. And that was a groundbreaking moment for me, because after that point, I could learn to take individual clips, stick them together and make videos that didn't have the pressure of one take correctness to them. And that took off a lot of pressure, but there was still a lot to learn with that, about camera positioning, sound volume, clipping things in and out, putting pictures within a picture, all these sorts of things that I now take for granted. But one thing I did do the other week was to clip in some audio that I made separately, because I'd made a real bungle with something that I'd said, and there was no way at that point I could refilm that particular clip. So I did manage to cut the audio out, record my voice and then stick that in, and I was quite proud of myself for that, because that's not the easiest thing to do on iMovie. Just like YouTube Studio can be a little bit clunky, but you get used to working with what you've got. And I'm not here to be making top grade videos. I'm just your humble, ordinary, late middle-aged blogger who literally is trying to do the best with what she's got. But yeah, the technology, upgrading to a better tripod. What was the other thing I got? I did buy a gooseneck that I could fit to a shopping trolley with my iPad, but I've not used that yet. I've not been brave enough. I did take it to IKEA, but it wouldn't fit on the handle, so that never got used there. So that's something that's still waiting. Other technological things that I've had to deal with are storage. Now, I will be quite honest, I do not store my videos. I tend to treat them a little bit like street art. They're great while they last, but let the rain wash them away. So I don't pay for extra storage. I don't pay for anything fancy. Yeah, but you have to do what works for you. And if you felt you needed to keep all your videos and you needed to store them somewhere, then that's up to you to do. But again, I have no idea about clouds or storage or anything. So I just basically work with what I've got. And it has been a steep learning curve, but I'm getting there. And also along the way, I've had to cope with getting a new laptop. And for me, that was quite scary as well. And part of that was losing access to Microsoft Office because I didn't want to pay for Microsoft 365. And so I'm again having to learn to use my laptop in a very different way. The next one is a bit of an issue. I've had to learn over the last year to protect my mental health, and that's an awful thing to say about being a content creator, but I would also say that it pertains to my job in retail as well. You would not believe how long a cutting remark from a customer can live in your mind. Sometimes in the early days it would take me about 48 hours or so to recover from a cutting remark or a criticism or an unfounded complaint. And I've really had to learn to toughen up in that situation and learn that a lot of the time, if not most of the time, it's about the person, it's not about you. It's about the issues that they're bringing to the situation, and I've had to learn not to take that energy into myself and let it affect my mental well-being. And it's been the same with YouTube, especially in the early days. I had a few really quite snide comments. I do get occasionally, but very rarely now get comments like that. But at the beginning, it was quite difficult. And there was one occasion when I thought, I can't do this anymore. And I do remember it coincided very much with that time when Living on a State Pension UK pulled out of YouTube momentarily, and then she came back. I can understand why she did that, because I was very close to doing exactly the same thing at that time. So if you are going to start a YouTube channel, just be aware that the toll on your mental health can be quite large, and you do have to learn to cope with it. And yes, there have been times when I've had to hide people from my channel. Not very often, but occasionally. And I don't just do that for me. I do that for the tone I want to maintain within my community. So I have to be my own moderator. Bigger channels do have moderators that take that pressure off the creator's shoulder, but I have to do that for myself. The other thing with YouTube and your own mental health is learning not to dive too deeply into the analytics. And I don't really do that anymore, really, other than just keep an eye on what my running daily average is in terms of potential income for the month within which we are at any time, because obviously I'm interested in whether I'm going to earn enough from the advertisers to be able to pay myself the amount I need to top up my monthly living allowance for the following month. So that's all I really ever look at, though I must admit it's always great to see the subscribers going up. And I love it when we get to a milestone, another 10, another 25, another 50, another 100. It's really quite amazing. That does evoke an incredible sense of responsibility, as well as in terms of thinking about what I say and what I'm sharing. And one example of that is some of the comments I've had about the shelf life of tinned goods. Well, I'm not going to tell you to eat a tin that's been on the shelf or past its best before end of date, because I feel I have a responsibility to you, my viewers, not to make any of you ill. So if someone says that's in the comments, that's not me necessarily saying that or concurring with it, because I would never say that to you, because as my viewers, I do feel somewhat responsible to you. And that's why I put a disclaimer in the description of my videos saying that the things that I do and the things that I say don't constitute professional financial advice. They're just me sharing my experiences and what I've done and what works for me. And sometimes it doesn't work for me. Okay, I think that's enough down that little rabbit hole. Let's just see what the next point is. Oh yeah, finding my own style. So that's been another thing, is finding my own style, just being me, or as the creator gurus would say, being authentic. There is no point copying what somebody else does or says, because it doesn't necessarily sit naturally with who you are as a content creator. And so over the last year, I've gradually been able to find what works for me. Obviously, there are things that the content gurus say that are worth taking on board, and you may have noticed that I now don't jump straight into rambling at you. I will tell you at the beginning what is going to be in the video, and then I cut to welcoming you, and then I cut to what I'm going to talk about. And that is because the YouTube content gurus say that you need to lay out your stall straight away, that what people see on the thumbnail needs to be the same as what they see the minute they click on your video. So when I get videos suggesting you should do this with your thumbnails or you should do that, I don't always do that, because I've developed a style now for my thumbnails. It may be a bit rough and ready, but it's recognizable by you, the viewers. So you're going to see that in your feed and go, oh look, there's another video from Frugal Granny, because you recognize the thumbnail style. So yes, there are things that I will have copied, or advice I will have taken on board, because that makes my video more appealing to you, the viewer. But there's no way I'm going to be copying someone else's style further than that, because I can only be me. And I know from the comments that you've left that a lot of you really appreciate the fact that I'm authentic and honest, and that I am being me. And that is why I owned up at the beginning of this video about Monday's video. Will not be filmed on Monday. It was filmed last Saturday, or maybe even last Sunday. And I knew that Bella's snoring had caught me out there, so I am being honest with you about that. But again, you know, scheduling has to fit round life events, and I was not sure how Bella's surgery was going to go, so I just took the initiative to do next Monday's video before this weekend, just in case I had to sit and hold her paw for the whole time and couldn't pick up my iPad to film, or even go shopping for that matter. The ninth thing that I've learnt about being on YouTube is how important it is to stick to my niche. Now, some people would say that my recent videos that have gone more off down the prepper pantry path are not true to my niche, but they are in fact a spin-off of who I am. They are a spin-off of my frugal values and my frugal habits, and because I'm being authentic and sharing my life with you, I'm afraid you got a little bit of the prepper pantry side of me, and obviously you will get a little bit more of that on Monday. But I do know that there are some very valuable hints to be picked up in those videos, even if you can't afford or don't feel that you want to go down the whole well-stocked pantry route. I mean, that's me. You do you. Anyway, so basically I am just sharing what's happening in my life and how I'm getting on, because I think there is a general interest, especially among women, about, well, what happens if I go early? Am I going to be able to manage? How am I going to keep my head above water? Will I have to get a part-time job? Can I manage on my annuities? Will they be enough? Am I going to regret leaving the office? What am I going to eat this week? What about clothes? Do I need to declutter? All of these things pertain to life after unexpected semi-retirement. And I am not the sort of channel that's going to do psychological aspects of what early retirement means to you, or like 10 things I should have done before I retired that I regret now. I'm not going to go down that route, because that really isn't the sort of channel that this is. This is a vlog, and it's dealing with what I'm facing up to day by day, week by week, whether it be redeeming my bike from the bike man because of the fuel crisis, or supporting my dog because she's going through more surgeries than I'd anticipated, or anything else for that matter, unexpected car repairs, all that sort of thing, planting my garden, all those sorts of things. And then finally, last but not least, one of the unexpected side benefits that has come about from this YouTube channel is building community. Now, I hadn't honestly anticipated that when I've started, but I've gained some amazing viewers, and some of you turn up in the comments every single week, and I've got to know some of you really, really well. You've shared a lot of your life experiences, you share your expertise. I've learned an incredible amount from you. I mean, only in the comments of my last video, somebody who's obviously got accountancy qualifications putting me right about my pension contributions, and I'm very, very grateful, because I might be able to do the maths, but I don't know the terminology. I don't know the finer details of how these things work. And so I'm very grateful for everything that you've contributed to me and that you've contributed to each other, and some of the conversations that you've all struck up between each other in the comments. It's been absolutely amazing. And I've always tried to answer all of your comments. I know there's going to come a point when it's going to be physically impossible to do that, but we'll deal with that when we get to it. But at the moment, I'm still able to at least put a heart and a thank you next to a comment to indicate that I've read it and I appreciate it. So thank you so much, because without your input and response, this channel wouldn't have become what it is, and I definitely would not be able to keep my head as far above water as I am, or to have got myself a few things that I've got this last year that really are a big treat. And I think, like replacing my parasol after the storm and investing in that power pack and solar generator, I would not have been able to do that without your wonderful response and interaction. So I'm really, really very grateful for that. I don't really put aside scheduled time for answering comments. I still sort of grab the odd moment when I'm sitting down during the day to do that. One thing I have learned is not really to try and do comments on my phone during my break at work at the supermarket. The signal there is awful, and sometimes the comments don't post, and then the software thinks that I have answered it, which means that the viewer doesn't get a response, and then maybe they're wondering, is she ignoring me? I don't know. So I do tend to sit with my laptop and a cup of coffee and sit with Bels to answer comments, and I enjoy doing that. Sometimes I have to do it in several stages because there are so many comments, but it really has been a wonderful side of being a YouTube creator that I honestly hadn't anticipated. And I must admit, all in all, as I think back, as I moved a few months into the whole process, there was a dawning realisation on me that the whole enterprise was a lot more than I had initially understood or realised. But I think it's probably a little bit like having a baby. If you knew the full implications before you had one, you probably wouldn't. But you learn along the way. You have these sort of light bulb moments and you adjust accordingly. So anyway, that's a little bit of a ramble from me. I can see I'm now about the 40-minute mark, so I'm hoping to edit that down to the usual half an hour or less. And you will see pre-recorded me on Monday talking about a pantry top-up haul. Basically, that pantry top-up haul had two aims. It was to increase variety, particularly among tinned fruit, and it was to increase shelf stability in terms of getting longer dates. And to do that, I did actually buy a few things that I don't normally buy, basically to buy myself 6 months extra shelf stability date. But anyway, I'll leave that till Monday. I don't know if there will be a bonus video next week. We'll just have to wait and see. But after that, I'll be back with you on Thursday for coffee and catch up. And look, it's still very quiet. I just can't believe how quiet it is. Can you? I can hear an odd little snuffle, but not the usual snortling. I'll have to stop calling her Snortlepuss now. Let me see if I can get her on film for you. But anyway, thank you so much for watching and for all your support. And I will see you. I'll see you on Monday, even though it was last week. And then I'll see you again properly next Thursday. Bye-bye for now. Are you my little Toothless the Dragon? You are. Oh, baby girl. Baby girl. Oh, there's a snortle for the viewers. Oh, look at your poor sore nose. Oh dear, you're bubbling a bit. Let me just wipe it. You're going to show everybody your poor old tummy? I think that's a bit TMI, so we're just going to keep the duvet over that bit, okay? Oh, you're so good. You're so good. No, don't show everybody your tummy. They don't want to see it. They really don't. Anyway, we'll catch everybody next week, won't we? And look, there's your little bare patch. Oh, don't show people your tummy. Okay, baby girl. Right, that's it now.